populations grow and incomes rise, we're eating more and more animal protein. Double the amount of milk compared to the early 1960s and 4 times the red meat. In fact, the average person now consumes over 40 kilograms of meat each year. Think 350 quarter-pounders. Now, none of this is about persuading you to go vegan or vegetarian. That's a personal choice. But there is a big warning light about what all this meat and dairy consumption is doing to our planet. Intensive livestock farming is highly polluting. It requires huge amounts of resources and emits large quantities of greenhouse gases. But then there are 1.3 billion people around the world who depend on livestock for their survival. So how do we do this? Eat less animal protein? None at all? Or get it from sustainable and ethical sources? In this programme, we visit Knepp Estate in the UK, where farmers are producing meat on restored dairy and cropland. But first, we're off to Santiago, Chile, where a pioneering company is revolutionising the food industry with plants and artificial intelligence.
The world's growing addiction to food made from animal products, many of them processed, is increasing not only our cholesterol levels, but also our environmental footprint. Scientists say we have to curb our cravings for meat and dairy, not only for our own health, but also for the planet's. But how when demand just keeps on growing? Well, the answer may not come from humans. Here in Santiago, Chile, one startup is enlisting the help of artificial intelligence.
How are you?
Hi, Matthias, nice to meet you.
Welcome to Notco.
Thank you.
This is actually the experimental kitchen of Notco. So what you're going to see here is the interaction between technology and humans.
In this kitchen, there is a very special chef, an artificial intelligence algorithm called Giuseppe. So where is Giuseppe here?
Well, Giuseppe is here in the experimental kitchen and is one more member of the chef's team.
Giuseppe generates recipes which reinvent animal-based dishes using plants, and then the chefs follow them.
Basically, it's trying to get a technology that would allow us to predict what combination of plant-based ingredients should result in the same sensorial experience, taste, texture, smell, colors. For a human being, that might sound really crazy, but for an algorithm, it doesn't.
The process starts with giving Giuseppe a dish to recreate. We could try something. I love lasagna, for instance.
You asked for a difficult one?
Yeah?
Yeah, but we can try it.
All right.
Because in a lasagna, we have the meat. Also, we have the egg that is in the dough of the lasagna. We have the cheese. And also, you have bechamel sauce that is made from milk. Press the button go and it's generating the recipe. Well, Giuseppe gave us more than 100 different recipes. We have the ingredients. Giuseppe is suggesting shiitake mushroom, lemonade, orange rice, also baking soda. We have a new challenge that is the not lasagna. So Victor, let's go with the mozzarella cheese that it can melt. Bernardo with the lasagna dough, and Nikki with the bolognese and the bechamel sauce.
I've been assigned to the cheese team. My recipe includes red pepper, olive and nuts, while Victor is using carrots and potatoes. Okay, so my cheese isn't quite working at Victor's.
Yeah, so here we have 2 different results, combining different plants. We are trying to achieve this shredded cheese for spreading in the lasagna, and this is not shredded, and that is quite good.
It's more salty, so they're very different. The aim of all the efforts here isn't actually to make appetizing dishes, but to enable Giuseppe to learn more about the qualities of different plant ingredients. So the mishaps, like my mozzarella, are just as useful as the successes.
So we have the results, and now we are giving the input, the smell, the flavor, the texture.
So Giuseppe is actually learning from our sensory experience.
Yes.
It's going to take the chefs a week to go through all the recipes that Giuseppe has suggested. In the meantime, I'm going to find out more about the science behind the operation. ¿Qué están haciendo aquí?
Estamos tomándoles datos para entregárselo a Giuseppe, y con esto Giuseppe comprende cómo necesitamos que se vea un queso para después replicarlo con ingredientes de origen 100% vegetales. Nosotros podemos entender en la cocina cómo funciona una textura, pero Giuseppe tiene esta mordida, entonces comprende cómo funciona el alimento.
Eso está muy bueno, o sea, estamos viendo las mandíbulas de Giuseppe.
Exactamente.
Through analyzing ingredients and breaking them down to their molecular level, Giuseppe is able to work out what makes them taste, feel, look, smell, and behave as they do, and to understand their nutritional properties. Then, he can determine how to use different plant items in order to simulate the qualities of animal products. Karim Pichara is a computer scientist and the brains behind Giuseppe. So how did it all start?
I was sitting in my office in the university, and Matthias came and told me, what if you come up with an algorithm that finds plant-based formulas to mimic animal-based surrogate? And I had no idea how to come up with this solution, but we could create the first algorithm that was already able to generate the first plant-based formulas. After we tried them in the kitchen, we realized that they were actually working, and we realized we had something. Since that moment, we never stopped.
What is your goal?
Climate change, the deforestation, pandemics, all that comes because we are using the animal to produce food at scale. The biggest goal is like one day we're gonna see that the whole food industry changed thanks to the hustle to push the system, to come up with new solutions with disruptive formulas, with great product alternatives, not exploiting the animal anymore. I have a challenge for you. Here you have the nut products that are currently sold in the market. And out of these vegetables here, you must guess in each of these products what is the vegetable containing. So let's start with the nut milk.
Grapes?
No.
Pineapple?
Yes. You can continue with the burger.
Are there any grapes in this burger?
Not really.
Strawberries?
No.
Cocoa?
Yeah, it actually has cocoa on it. Humans are not going to combine these crazy ingredients. Giuseppe is able to, without any prior bias, find these mind-blowing ingredient combinations that actually match the animal-based target. The only way to really make people to change their current animal-based products and start consuming plant-based products is when they have a really tasty alternative.
And it seems people do find these products tasty. From a startup of 10 people in 2016, Notco now has a presence throughout Latin America and has recently entered the US. It's one of a number of food tech companies which are riding a global trend towards diets with less animal products, or none at all. One prediction says that in 10 years' time, the alternative meat industry will be worth $140 billion. Supermarkets and fast food brands are jumping on the bandwagon. Martin.
Hey Miguel.
Nice to meet you.
Welcome to Papa John's.
Cheers.
There's a lot of people making a transition to a plant-based diet, and we wanted to be part of that, and also that we wanted to reduce our carbon footprint.
And how many people are consuming it?
We are probably delivering between 10 and 12,000 pizzas each month. So now, before we try it, you have to focus on two main things. The nut meat,
Yeah?
it really feels like an actual meat, and the cheese.
This is it, the vegan pizza.
Go for it.
It's been a week since I left the chefs. Time to see how they've been getting on with that lasagna. Whoa. So, what has happened since the last time I was here?
We do the trial and error a lot of times. Maybe with the cheese, 10 formulas. With the lasagna dough, 6. In this point, I can't say in camera the ingredients, but here inside you have science, you have technology. Here you have Giuseppe.
There go my chances of making this at home. It's a competitive and secretive business. Looks amazing.
So let's try.
All right.
With you again.
Thank you. This is it. This is real lasagna.
I love it.
This is not lasagna, this is lasagna.
This is actually amazing even for me, that I probably tasted many things.
What I've seen here is a living example of how determination to solve a very challenging problem can go a long way. Eating habits aren't going to radically change overnight, but this has given me hope that it could be possible to curb the world's unsustainable addiction to animal products.
So we are seeing a shift, but there are still massive imbalances. Put it this way, if all the world's mammals were weighed and totaled up, then 4% would be wild animals, 36% would be us, humans, and 60% would be livestock. And that 60% needs pasture and fodder crops, which take up around 40% of Earth's habitable land. So ecosystems are disrupted, and viruses and wildlife are more likely to come into contact with livestock and with humans. Add to this cancer, obesity, stroke, and other illnesses which can be associated with excessive meat consumption, and you've got a ticking time bomb.
The science is today clear. Food is so important that if we don't fix food, we are very unlikely to fix the planet. An overconsumption of red meat contributes towards undermining both planetary health and human health. This does not mean that we all have to go vegetarian. We carried out a global scientific assessment, the Eat Lancet Commission, trying to define scientifically a healthy diet from sustainable food systems. And what we find is that a flexitarian diet gives the best outcomes in terms of life expectancy and healthy conditions. What is a flexitarian diet? Well, it's a diet that quite drastically reduces red meat consumption compared to the high per capita levels in the industrialized parts of the world. Animal protein dishes can be served 3 to 4 times per week, 2 from fish, 2 from white meat, and 1 from red meat. So a flexitarian diet is a more balanced diet. It has reduced dairy products, more nuts, more fruit, more vegetables, less salt, less sugar, and a very large increase in whole grain. And if you apply this across the world, we find that it's not difficult to adapt this to different cultures. If all of us eat the healthiest diet, the one that benefits us the most, we would also have a significant positive impact on the health of the planet. And the good news is that we have so much evidence that what we eat is probably the single largest contribution towards not only improving the climate, but also less pollution, better water management, and saving biodiversity. So every day, our food choices really matter.
So how can the meat we consume as part of a flexitarian diet actually help the planet? Well, in the course of restoring their damaged farmland, a husband and wife team discovered a highly sustainable way of raising livestock.
The conversion of wildlife habitat into farmland is a primary driver of biodiversity loss and ecosystem collapse. The UK's provision for nature is among the poorest on the planet. Around 70% of the country's land surface is used for agriculture, while less than 3% of ancient woodland remains. Hundreds of plant and animal species face extinction, including iconic animals such as the turtle dove and the hedgehog. But an increasing appetite for environmentally friendly food, plus a rise in domestic ecotourism, could offer a lifeline to British farmers and a beacon of hope for British biodiversity. I've come to Sussex in southern England to visit a dynamic project that is proving it's possible to boost biodiversity at the same time as producing food that's healthy for people and the planet. This is the 3,500-acre Knepp estate, run by husband and wife team Charlie Burrell and Isabella Tree. Together, they've taken farming convention and turned it on its head.
Hi.
Hello. Isabella, thank you so much for having us.
Oh, pleasure.
So this is the famous Knepp oak?
It is, wow. Absolutely. This tree, we reckon, is about 500 to 550 years old. So wow. It's seen the English Civil War, it's seen, you know, we just can't imagine what it's witnessed.
It was concerns for the health of this ancient oak that led Isabella and Charlie to radically reconsider their intensive farming methods.
The other trees in the landscape, which were much younger than this one, they were beginning to die back. And it was what we were doing to them that was making them suffer. We were ploughing pretty much up to the trunks of all these other trees and pouring chemicals over, and we suddenly thought, my God, you know, those trees are dying and it's down to us. It was a sort of moment of epiphany, really, that sort of kicked off a completely different way of thinking.
Isabella and Charlie spent years trying to make NEP pay, but farming the land profitably was proving impossible.
This soil, this very, very heavy clay, just isn't conducive to modern intensive farming. So after about 17 years, we were £1.5 million in debt. So in 1999, Charlie said, we've got to stop farming. We've got to look at something else.
That something else was the decision to let nature take over and to stop conventional farming altogether.
Suddenly, just letting it go, it was like the whole land was breathing a sigh of relief. And to us, that felt amazing. Just looking out of the windows on land that was recovering and hearing the sounds and watching wild animals or the fallow deer, you know, slowly moving past. It was like being in the middle of the Serengeti. It just felt amazing.
After selling off their milking herd, Isabella and Charlie introduced red deer from the Highlands of Scotland.
They're just beginning to kick off in the rut, so he's roaring day and night to attract the females. It was just absolutely astonishing, the life that poured back even that very first summer.
NEP is now helping some of the rarest species in the UK make a comeback. Turtle doves, nightjars and purple emperor butterflies are all thriving here.
That really inspired us, I think, to think, could we roll this out across the whole estate? But could we actually then do something wilder?
More of the estate was given over to nature with dramatic results. So, this is the second chapter of the NEP Wildland project, and I'm told this is where things get really wild. Morning, ladies and gents. So we've come down to the southern block here and we're going to meet Charlie Burrow. Now he's the other half of the NEP Wildland project and he's offered to take us and give us a bit of a tour around. Charlie, how are you?
Hello, hello.
How are you? So we just sit in the back here. Okay, I brought some binoculars. It might seem strange getting in a safari vehicle to drive around the English countryside, but wildlife tours to see NEP's Big Five are a vital part of their business model. It isn't long before our first sighting.
Whoa, 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 whoa. You've seen something. Fallow deer are really flighty things.
Whoa, look. Oh, there, look. Oh my gosh. Wow, that was genuinely exciting. Charlie wants me to see a rare visitor last sighted on these shores over 5 centuries ago. A white stork.
If you look at the oak tree like that and there's a brown area with your binoculars, you'll see that that's the nest.
Oh gosh, I've got it. Oh my goodness. That's enormous.
That was actually the second nest to be built in Britain in 604 years.
Storks were almost extinct in the UK, but Charlie and Isabella are helping to re-establish them. They're a big draw for eco-tourists wanting to see something unique. NEP hosts over 50,000 visitors every year.
These animals, we hope, will be a connection for people and nature. With these charismatic animals, you can start to entice people into the countryside and to think again about what they're looking at and what they're seeing. We're going to find some longhorns, but they're just up here somewhere. Ah, I've spotted them, and they're just over here in the scrub.
Longhorn cattle are one of NEP's so-called Big Five, animals introduced to the estate to mimic the behaviour of their wild ancestors.
These longhorn are the biggest of the Big Five.
Right.
So these are proxies of the wild cattle of Europe. And it's got traits we hope are still there in the breed. So they are grass-eating animals, they are browse-eating animals. Browse being they're eating the leaves and bark and harder vegetation, as well as grasses.
Why is that important ecologically?
So we consider that the drivers of creating new habitats are these big herbivores. They are the ones that are driving a system, and they are creating the habitats where everything else is then pouring in.
So you're really flipping it here. Rather than having a field and putting cows in the field, you're essentially employing these longhorn as staff, so they have a job to do in a sense.
Yeah.
From the air, it's easy to see how this landscape has changed. From neatly arranged crop fields to savanna-like scrubland. It's kept in check by the free-roaming herbivores nibbling at the scrub to keep it at bay, whilst at the same time spreading seeds and enriching the biodiversity in the soil. They also produce 50 tons of wild, organic, free-range meat every year. Beef, venison and pork all provide an important source of income for the estate.
This would have been an arable field in 2005, say. So we were putting on fertilizers and pesticides. We've got double the amount of organic matter in the soil now, double the carbon. The soil is becoming healthy and wholesome again.
The animals known as the Big Five, Exmoor ponies, red deer, fallow deer, Tamworth pigs and longhorn cattle are allowed to move freely around the estate. Ecologist Laurie Jackson, one of 16 scientists on site, is taking us out to track down some of NEP's most effective ecosystem engineers.
So this is one of our lovely Tamworth sows, and what she's doing is this great behaviour called rootling. So you can kind of see, if you get in here, what they've actually done. They've got this really sort of strong mobile snout, using that to just basically rip back and sort of lift over the turf and see what might be hiding underneath that they might like to eat.
It's the constant disturbance of the land by these animals that creates such a diverse ecosystem.
We're not sort of ploughing the ground in any way. We are trying to get back to what our ecosystems would have looked like. So these 5 different types of animals that we have here, they're all shaping this landscape in sort of subtly different ways, because they've all got different things that they want to do, different places they want to go.
We are actually in the midst of cutting-edge science here.
Yeah, it's very much about this sort of process. So it's us kind of, as much as possible, taking ourselves out of the equation, and to see that things are just fine without us it's quite refreshing.
Yeah. Charlie and Isabella's radical decision to stop conventional farming is starting to pay financial dividends. Their campsite is booked years ahead, their wild range meat business is booming, and their safaris are growing ever more popular. But it's their success in encouraging wildlife that's attracted increasing numbers of farmers to visit NEP to see how lessons learned here could turn around Britain's biodiversity crisis.
When I was at agricultural college, there were the environmentalists, who we called the bunny huggers, and there were the proper farming folk, and we were learning how to be productive and to intensively farm the land. And it seems mad that we're still in these two camps, and what we need to do, and what this will assist us to do, the whole NEP project, I think, is to bring both camps together. And so farmers finally twigging they can weave what we can learn here into their day-to-day activity on their farm profitably.
Everyone is talking about NEP. Everyone is looking at this wonderful island of biodiversity and a thriving business. And where are we going to get to in the future? How are things going to change?
Well, I think it's begun to happen. That's what's really exciting. There's projects across the whole of Britain, from Devon to Norfolk to Northumberland. We have visions of wildlife corridors and really joined up landscape again, which would be thrilling.
So this is not just conservation for its own sake. We're talking about a business that has to be financially viable.
At the moment we're selling £120,000 worth of meat. In 5 years' time we're hoping that will turn over £750,000. So we're hoping that we're going to create a business with some of the best meats in the world.
Did you ever dare to dream that it would grow in the way that it has done?
I think at the time it was just, wouldn't it be interesting if we could do this experiment, and if biodiversity could increase just a little bit, that would be worth doing. Nobody had any idea that it would take off and become a magnet for all these incredibly rare species. So it's been beyond anybody's dreams, I think, really.
So what's the upshot here? Well, avoiding or at least significantly reducing meat and dairy is probably the single biggest way we can lessen our environmental impact. And there are plenty of means to do this. Plant-based burgers, meat grown in the lab, baby food made from algae. These may take a bit of a mindset change, but they are real alternatives. And for those of us who don't want to or can't become vegan or vegetarian, there are more and more sustainably sourced animal options available as long as we eat less of them. There is power in our plates, and it's up to all of us who are lucky enough to be able to choose what to eat to use it.